This week's quote comes from Ed Mylett. He says, "Extremity expands capacity." Now, I have known of Ed's material for a really long time. I had him on my podcast for the first time back in 2018, I believe. And I had him again on my podcast last year when he was coming out with his book, The Power of One More. And during that conversation, we talked about a multitude of things that were included in the book. But one of the things that really stood out to me was he said this phrase, "Extremity expands capacity." Explain to me your belief about balance. You got so many things going on. You got the family, especially when you were in like knee deep in the weeds of building the business, and the kids were young, and there's so much stuff going on. What do you believe about balance?
Fallacy. It's one of the things I don't like that I did in this book is I reread it the other day, and it's like, I almost think you would think I think you can have balance if you read my book. And I don't like that because I don't think you can always be in balance. I think it's something to strive for, but not realistic. Remember this, extremity expands capacity. This is something most people don't understand. The more you do something to the extreme, it expands your capacity to do it again or bigger, ironically. So for me, the idea that this notion that, well, if I'm crushing it at work, I'm going to be not as good of a dad. Or if I'm really a great dad, I'm not going to be fit. The truth is that for me, when I'm crushing it at work, I come home, I'm a better dad. I'm more engaged. I'm more energized. I think this notion that we get tired because of hard work is actually not true. I actually think we're like batteries and we need to be charged all the time. Most people are tired from lack of ambition, lack of work, lack of engagement, lack of chasing something more than they are by chasing something. When I'm super fit and jacked at the gym, I'm a better business person. I'm a business athlete instead of an average everyday business person. So this notion that if I give a lot to one thing, another one gets less, that's just a flawed premise. It's a flawed belief system. There's no proof that that's true. And I can tell you that it's not true. The more fit I am, I've been better in business. The better I've done in business, the better father I've been. The better father I've been, I'm actually more focused in business. The key is be where your feet are. If I'm at work, I got to be at work. And when I leave there and I go into my home, I need to be in my home. When I'm at the gym, I don't reply to texts and emails, right? I'm in that world. I'm going to dispense some justice for an hour, right? I'm going to get after it. Then when I leave there, I'll be where my feet are planted then. So this notion of balance is not true. And this notion that because you do a lot of one thing, the other thing suffers is also not true. But because you believe it, it does. Stop believing that.
It was one of those things that just caught my ear at the right time, and it just made complete and perfect sense to me, and I tried to implement it as much as I could. But all he was saying is basically when you do something to the extreme, which is the opposite of what culture tells you to do. Culture tells you to, be balanced and dip your toe in the water and don't dive in head first and all these other things. But when you do something to the extreme version of that thing, you figure out what your capacity is to do that thing. And it's probably much higher than you thought it was if you wouldn't have put yourself through the extreme version of that thing, if that makes sense. So let me give you a real life example of something that I did after I had this conversation with Ed. And I ran a 38-mile race with me and a couple of friends. It was really just a run. We weren't, racing for anything. It wasn't official. But a buddy of mine, Trevor, was turning 38. He was going to run 38 miles on his 38th birthday. So me and my buddy Daniel decided that we were going to do that with him. We started at midnight on his birthday. We didn't get any sleep, and we ran from midnight all the way to 9 a.m. and did 38 miles. And before that, I had never even done a half marathon, let alone a full marathon or an ultra marathon. And I wasn't really fully trained for it or anything like that, but I pushed myself to do it. And oh my gosh, we might do a full episode on this sometime to just walk you through everything, because we have footage and everything that I was taking during that whole run. But it was one of the craziest experiences of my life. It taught me a lot about myself. There were so many moments during that time that I wanted to quit. My feet got messed up. I had this massive blister on my left foot within 3 miles of starting the run, but completed the full 38 miles. And it was an example of extremity expanding capacity. I didn't know what my body, what I was capable of, what I was mentally capable of, until I pushed myself beyond the limits that I thought were already imposed on me by my own self. So when I went to the extreme, the capacity expanded, and my mindset completely changed around what I am capable of doing because of that moment of extremity. So extremity expands capacity, and apply this to whatever you're trying to get better at selling. Well, take an insane amount of sales calls. Go knock on an insane amount of doors. Go to the extreme with it. Oh, you want to get better at the piano? Well, practice for 4 hours a day. Go whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to excel at, whatever you're trying to win in. Do it to its fullest extreme, because that will teach you that you are so much more capable than you think that you are. Because if you keep just doing this, dip your toes in and just kind of test it out and try it out before you ever do anything to its fullest extent, then you will never really fully understand what you're truly capable of, and you will miss your potential. So Extremity expands capacity. Thank you to Ed for the continued mentorship and advice. I always appreciate the one-on-one chats that we get to have, and some of the group trainings I've been a part of, hearing you speak all the time. Really, really love your stuff, Ed. Appreciate you.